This episode of Stories from the Vault is brought to you by Petty Merch. Get the new exclusive Proud to Be on a Government Watch List t-shirt for 15% off with code VAULT at pettymerch.xyz. This episode covers the September 11th attacks, including graphic descriptions of mass casualties, terrorist attacks, and FBI investigative files. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Wilshire Unit City, Wilshire Unit 211, GTA just occurred, 3921 Wilshire Boulevard, 3921 Wilshire Boulevard, incident 329, any Wilshire Unit code 2 high.
On September 11, 2001, the United States experienced one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in U.S. history. 4 coordinated hijackings of commercial airliners resulted in nearly 3,000 deaths and the destruction of the World Trade Center's Twin Towers, severe damage to the Pentagon, and the crash of United 93 in Pennsylvania. The FBI's vault contains internal reports, flight manifests, ballistics evidence, and detailed communications between agents, local law enforcement, and the federal partners. Today, we'll explore what the Bureau documented on that day. The human, procedural, and operational details directly from the files with no interpretation beyond what's recorded. From the first reports of hijacking to the aftermath, these documents provide an unfiltered, minute-by-minute view of the day that changed America forever. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Within minutes, the FBI's New York field office began receiving calls from local authorities, airport personnel, and traffic controllers. Initial SIT reps, or situation reports, document the chaos. Operators were logging flight numbers, passenger manifests, and suspected hijacker names. Every communication, every detail was recorded in real time. By 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower. The New York office reported additional field agents deployed to the scene. Internal memos show that the FBI's Counterterrorism Division immediately began compiling hijacker profiles using passenger data, security footage, and FAA intelligence. Meanwhile, at 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon. The FBI's Washington field office was alerted, dispatching crisis response teams to coordinate with Pentagon Police, Secret Service, and Arlington County authorities. At 10:03 a.m., United Flight 93 crashed into Shanksville, Pennsylvania. FBI documents indicate that agents arrived on site within the hour. Witness interviews were collected, perimeter secured, and evidence logged. Agents meticulously noted debris locations, passenger belongings, and terrain features, all recorded for posterity. FBI internal communication during the morning shows a clear hierarchy of actions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. The who: field agents, crisis response teams, NYPD, FDNY, Secret Service, FAA, and local law enforcement. What? Establish secure perimeters, collect evidence, assist victims, and document hijacker identities. When? From the first plane strike at 8:46 a.m. through the mid-morning chaos. Where? New York City, Arlington, Shanksville. Why? To secure evidence, identify perpetrators, and prevent further attacks. And how? Through rapid deployment, phone and radio communication, and detailed written reports. The vault also contains internal memos highlighting initial confusion. Some reports indicated more than 4 hijacked planes, multiple secondary threats, and suspected additional targets. Agents were instructed to log every lead, however improbable, creating an exhaustive paper trail of the unfolding day. Witness statements included in the vault revealed panic, bravery, and heroism. Civilians fled, guided by emergency responders, while others documented the attacks with phones or cameras. Agents recorded all of it, verbatim statements, locations, times, knowing that every detail could be crucial for investigation and historical record. By late morning, the North Tower had collapsed. FBI documents show agents scrambling to update field reports, coordinate with New York City emergency operations, and begin tracking victims' identities. Notes indicate both logistical hurdles and profound human tragedy, the type of chaos no agent could have anticipated. This morning alone set the tone for weeks of continuous investigation with internal memos, evidence logs, and communications forming the foundation for what would become a massive federal investigation. As the morning unfolded, the FBI's focus shifted from documenting the attacks to coordinating a massive response across 3 sites: New York City, the Pentagon, and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Field offices activated their crisis response teams immediately. Agents were dispatched to secure evidence, assist first responders, and maintain perimeter around the collapse sites. Internal sit reps reveal that every step was logged. Agents recorded times, team assignments, and communication channels in meticulous detail. In New York, agents worked alongside NYPD and FDNY to establish a secure perimeter around Ground Zero. Building security plans, structural hazards, and areas of potential contamination were cataloged in daily internal memos. Agents collected photographic evidence of debris patterns, stairwells, elevator shafts, and structural damage, all for investigative and forensic purposes. At the Pentagon, FBI teams coordinated with the Pentagon Police, Arlington County, and Secret Service. Agents documented the crash site, mapping damage to the building, aircraft debris, and witness statements. Flight manifests, security footage, and employee access logs were all pulled from multiple sources. Every memo emphasizes the chain of custody for evidence. Nothing could be overlooked. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, it presented a different challenge. United 93 crashed in a remote field, leaving no intact building, but significant debris spread over a large area. FBI agents documented the crash site using detailed sketches, photographs, and GPS tag coordinates. Witness statements describing heroic attempts to retake the plane from hijackers were logged verbatim, highlighting both tragedy and courage. The vault contains memos showing interagency coordination. Field offices sent hourly updates to FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. Coordination with the FAA and NORAD tracked all commercial air traffic that morning. Communications with the CIA and the Department of Defense assessed potential ongoing threats. Even amidst chaos, protocols were followed. The FBI Evidence Control Division began tagging, cataloging, and preserving all artifacts from all 3 sites. Everything from aircraft wreckage to personal items. Every action was documented, forming a paper trail that would later underpin investigations and trials. Internal documents reveal that agents were constantly updating victim identification procedures, establishing morgue coordination, and assisting families. The vault includes detailed memos on how DNA samples were collected, how records were cross-referenced with flight manifests, and how agents handled sensitive family notifications. By mid-afternoon, the immediate response phase was largely under operational control. FBI headquarters compiled reports summarizing agent deployment, evidence cataloging, and interagency cooperation. These memos would become primary sources for understanding both the response and the failures that shaped post-9/11 counterterrorism policy. As the dust settled across New York, the Pentagon, and Shanksville, the FBI turned its attention to a critical task: Who were these hijackers? And how did they plan the attack? Within hours, field agents began compiling passenger manifests from all 4 flights. Internal memos note the painstaking cross-referencing with airline databases, passport records, visa information, and watch lists maintained by the FBI and the Department of State. By late afternoon, preliminary identities were established for several individuals aboard flights 11, 175, 77, and 93. Internal communications emphasized accuracy. Every name, birth date, and nationality had to be verified before releasing information to the public or other agencies. The vault contains detailed memos showing the FBI's profiling processes. Agents collected school records, employment histories, and travel itineraries. Financial records were traced, revealing international money transfers linked to known extremist networks. Connections between the hijackers and Al Qaeda operatives overseas were documented within 48 hours. Flight school records became a key piece of evidence. FBI reports show investigators visiting multiple training facilities in Florida and elsewhere, interviewing instructors and students, and logging the hijackers' progress and piloting skills. The records highlight that these individuals were carefully preparing for mass casualty attacks. Internal vault memos also record coordination with foreign intelligence agencies. Saudi, UAE, and European authorities were contacted to verify travel histories and known associates. Every communication, whether email, fax, or teletype, was archived in the vault. The Shanksville crash site added crucial confirmation. FBI agents collected debris from Flight 93, cross-referenced passenger belongings, and began mapping possible motives based on ticket purchases and seating arrangements. Witness reports from local residents documented verbatim and vault memos helped reconstruct the final moments of the flight. By the end of the first 48 hours, the FBI had established that 19 hijackers were involved, coordinated by Al Qaeda operatives abroad. Memoranda highlight how agents traced logistical support, including visa fraud, financial facilitation, and travel planning, all of which pointed to a highly organized network. Throughout these investigations, internal documents reveal a recurring theme. Every lead, no matter how small, was meticulously logged. Citizen reports, suspicious activity notes, and minor anomalies were treated seriously. Any overlooked detail could compromise the broader investigation. This early identification phase was foundational. Not only did it confirm the scale of the conspiracy, but it also set the stage for subsequent intelligence sharing, counterterrorism policy updates, and eventual prosecutions. The vault preserves every document from initial flight manifests to international coordination memos, allowing us to trace minute by minute how the FBI pieced together the identities of the people responsible for one of the deadliest days in American history. While the world watched the towers fall in New York, the FBI's attention quickly turned to the 2 other crash sites, the Pentagon and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Each presented unique challenges for evidence collection, victim identification, and establishing the sequence of events. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 struck the western side of the Pentagon. FBI field agents were dispatched immediately to coordinate with Pentagon Police, the Arlington County Police Department, and the Secret Service. Vault memos detail the painstaking work, evidence preservation. Agents cataloged aircraft debris embedded in the building, personal belongings of passengers, and structural damage to the Pentagon offices. Each item was photographed, labeled, and logged into secure evidence storage. Employees present in the impact zone were interviewed extensively. Statements were recorded verbatim, including descriptions of the plane's approach, impact, and subsequent evacuation. The Pentagon is a high security federal facility. Agents coordinated with multiple federal and military security units to establish a controlled perimeter, ensuring that evidence was preserved and civilian access was restricted. To coordinate operations at the Pentagon, the FBI set up a temporary command post in the nearby parking garage. This space became the nerve center for agents, communication personnel, and emergency responders. From there, FBI leadership could monitor both evidence collection and site security in real time, dispatch teams to specific zones, and liaise directly with Arlington County and Pentagon authorities. Vault memos describe a continuous flow of SITREPs, phone calls, and radio communications relayed to headquarters from this makeshift command post. It was here that operational decisions, where to deploy additional agents, which areas required immediate evidence preservation, and how to assist victims were coordinated. Though the garage itself is not in the official vault, it is widely recognized in public records as a critical part of the FBI's immediate response infrastructure. Meanwhile, United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in a remote field at approximately 10:03 a.m. Unlike the Pentagon or the World Trade Center, there was no building, only open terrain scattered with debris. Vault documents outline the FBI's response, site arrival, and coordination with local police, fire departments, and first responders. They secured the crash area while the FBI agents began logging the scene. Agents recorded the positions of the aircraft fragments, passenger belongings, and terrain features that could help reconstruct the crash. Residents reported hearing unusual sounds and observing suspicious activity prior to the crash. Agents documented these accounts verbatim, noting timestamps and location. Despite the chaotic nature of the crash site in open terrain, evidence was meticulously gathered. Flight recorders, passenger items, and even fragments of luggage were photographed, labeled, and preserved for forensic examination. Internal vault memos emphasize the heroism of passengers. Flight 93's cockpit voice recorders and recovered notes revealed the passengers attempted to retake control of the aircraft from the hijackers, likely preventing further destruction. Agents documented every recovered artifact that confirmed these acts of bravery. Through these two parallel investigations, the FBI demonstrated a combination of forensic diligence, interagency cooperation, and adherence to investigative protocols under unprecedented pressure. Every memo, every photograph, every statement created a detailed historical record of the attacks beyond what the public saw. By the end of this initial phase, internal reports show that the Bureau had not only secured evidence and begun victim identification, but had also created a template for documenting large-scale terror attacks for future counterterrorism operations. Once immediate chaos subsided, the FBI's attention turned to one of the most difficult and sensitive aspects of the investigation: victim identification. Across New York, the Pentagon, and Shanksville, agents and forensics teams faced the painstaking task of documenting, cataloging, and ultimately identifying every individual who had perished. In New York, Ground Zero presented unique challenges. The collapse of the Twin Towers scattered human remains among debris, creating a complex and hazardous environment. Vault memos show that agents worked alongside medical examiners and forensic specialists, collecting body fragments, personal items, and DNA samples. Each sample was carefully labeled and cross-referenced against flight manifests, employment records, and missing persons reports. The Pentagon posed a different set of obstacles. Many victims were civilians, military personnel, and government employees. Internal documents indicate that FBI agents coordinated with multiple agencies to cross-check rosters, office assignments, and personnel records. Family notifications were handled with extreme care, with agents documenting every conversation, ensuring accuracy while providing support. Shanksville required a similar meticulous approach. Flight 93's crash scattered debris across open terrain, leaving few intact bodies. Agents recorded the positions of all recovered items and remains, preserving the chain of custody for subsequent DNA analysis. Vault memos note the importance of photographic and written documentation, capturing even the smallest detail that could assist with identification. Throughout this process, the FBI's Family Liaison Program played a critical role. Agents acted as intermediaries between families and investigative teams, providing updates, verifying information, and offering support. Vault memos emphasize the emotional weight of these duties. Agents were required to remain professional while witnessing the grief and trauma of loved ones. DNA analysis became central to the process. Laboratories across the country were engaged to match remains with passenger and employee records. Internal memos highlight the sheer scale, thousands of samples, meticulous cross-checking, and continuous updates to the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. Even as investigators navigated this human toll, internal documents reveal that evidence collection continued simultaneously. Agents balanced the dual responsibilities of identifying victims and preserving forensic evidence that would be critical to understanding the attacks and preventing future threats. By the end of the first weeks, the FBI had created comprehensive victim identification logs, family notification records, and forensic evidence databases. These records preserved in the vault not only facilitated justice and closure, but also served as an unprecedented historical archive of one of the deadliest attacks on U.S. soil. With victim identification underway, the FBI quickly shifted focus to the broader investigation: how the attacks were planned, who was responsible, and whether additional threats remained. Internal vault documents show that within hours, field offices across the country were coordinating intelligence gathering, suspect interviews, and financial investigations. Agents were tasked with tracing the movements of the hijackers in the weeks and months prior to 9/11, reviewing travel logs, visa applications, and airline bookings. Connections to Al-Qaeda became apparent almost immediately. Early sit reps outlined surveillance of known extremist networks, financial tracking of suspected facilitators, coordination with CIA, NSA, and the Department of State to identify operatives abroad. The vault contains memos that show investigators faced massive interagency coordination challenges. Agents worked to integrate intelligence from multiple sources while maintaining proper documentation for legal proceedings. This included reviewing communications between suspected foreign nationals and U.S.-based contacts, analyzing flight training school records, and examining visa issuance patterns. International cooperation became critical. FBI teams liaised with foreign law enforcement and intelligence agencies to verify hijacker travel histories, monitor special financial transfers, and share critical updates in real time. Vault records show daily updates being sent from Washington to field offices and foreign partners alike, reflecting the global scope of the investigation. Agents also began mapping out potential support networks within the United States. Memoranda detail monitoring of flight schools, community centers, and financial institutions connected to the hijackers. Every lead, no matter how small, was logged in internal systems, ensuring nothing was overlooked. Internal vault memos highlight early security policy implications. The Bureau quickly realized that gaps in aviation security, immigration, and intelligence sharing had contributed to the success of the attacks. These findings would later form the basis of sweeping counterterrorism reforms, including the creation of the Department of Homeland Security and the restructuring of interagency communication protocols. Despite the urgency, the FBI maintained meticulous documentation practices. Every investigative step, interview, surveillance, document request was recorded and archived, creating a permanent record of the Bureau's response. These records would later prove critical for congressional inquiries, legal proceedings, and historical research. By the end of September 2001, the FBI had transformed a national tragedy into an unprecedented federal investigation, laying the groundwork for arrest, prosecutions, and policy changes that would follow. The Vault preserves this transformation in real time, capturing challenges and decisions and successes of the Bureau as they faced an attack on an unimaginable scale. Even as the FBI worked around the clock to piece together what happened on September 11, public speculation and conspiracy theories began to emerge. Vault records show that agents were acutely aware of the misinformation circulating online, in print media, and on television. Internal memos document concerns about how rumors could complicate investigations, especially if potential witnesses or tips were influenced by false narratives. Agents were tasked with monitoring public statements, news reporting, and emerging claims that diverged from verified evidence. Some of the most persistent theories included questions about whether explosives were used in the Twin Towers collapse, speculation that Flight 93 was shot down by a military aircraft, claims that the Pentagon attack involved a missile rather than a hijacked plane. Vault documents emphasize that all of these claims were cross-checked against physical evidence. Agents verified flight data recorders, cockpit voice recorders, air traffic control communications, eyewitness accounts, and debris analysis. In each case, internal findings consistently contradicted the conspiracy. Flight recorders confirmed the identities of all 4 flights. Structural analyses and debris patterns matched the impact of commercial airliners. Eyewitness testimony consistently described hijacked planes, not missiles or explosives. The FBI also coordinated with other federal agencies to clarify misinformation when it risked hindering ongoing investigations. Reports show proactive communication with the public, emphasizing verified facts while maintaining operational security. Interestingly, though, internal Vault memos reveal the Bureau's recognition that conspiracies often stemmed from gaps in public understanding. Agents noted that complex forensic and intelligence processes were difficult for the general public to grasp, which created fertile ground for speculation. By documenting both the evidence and the misconceptions, the FBI created a comprehensive record of what was known, what was verified, and what was false. These records serve as an important historical safeguard, ensuring that future researchers can separate verified information from rumor. Ultimately, the FBI's meticulous documentation underscores a broader lesson. Even in the face of tragedy and speculation, truth requires rigorous investigation, careful analysis, and unwavering attention to detail. The Vault preserves this record for posterity, capturing not only the facts of September 11, but also the challenges of managing truth in a world full of misinformation. The attacks of September 11, 2001 changed the United States forever. But beyond the immediate tragedy, the FBI's response left a lasting legacy on law enforcement, intelligence, and national security. Vault documents highlight several key reforms initiated in the aftermath. The attack exposed gaps in communication between agencies like the FBI, CIA, and NSA. Internal reports show that new protocols were quickly implemented to improve information sharing and reduce bureaucratic delays. The FBI significantly expanded its counterterrorism divisions, both in personnel and in resources. New specialized units were established to monitor domestic and international threats, analyze intelligence, and respond to incidents rapidly. Lessons learned at Ground Zero, the Pentagon, and Shanksville reshaped evidence collection practices, victim identification protocols, and large-scale disaster response strategies. Every step taken became a blueprint for how future federal investigations should be. The FBI recognized the importance of providing verified information to the public. New channels were established to issue updates, clarify misinformation, and maintain transparency while safeguarding sensitive details. The human toll also influenced policy. Internal vault records detail initiatives to support victims' families, provide mental health resources to first responders, and ensure that large-scale disasters received coordinated federal attention. These programs set precedents for managing both the operational and humanitarian aspects of national crises. Perhaps most importantly, the vault preserves the FBI's meticulous record keeping, which allows historians, journalists, and the public to understand the scale, complexity, and human impact of the attacks. It stands as a testament to the Bureau's ability to operate under unprecedented pressure while maintaining procedural integrity. The lessons of 9/11 extend beyond law enforcement. They remind us that preparedness, collaboration, and vigilance are essential in protecting a nation from threats both seen and unseen. The records in the vault not only document the events themselves, but also the evolution of national security and their aftermath. As we close this chapter, it becomes clear that the attacks were more than a single day of devastation. They were a catalyst for profound change in how the United States protects itself and preserves justice. This episode of Stories from the Vault is brought to you by Petty Merch. Celebrate your love of uncovering history with our new Proud to Be on a Government Watch List t-shirt. Get 15% off your first order with code VAULT at pettymerch.xyz. For a limited time, you can get the exclusive September 11th commemorative t-shirt for 15% off with code September at checkout. As we've seen today, September 11th was more than a day of tragedy. It was a test of our systems, our courage, and our capacity to respond under unimaginable pressure. The FBI records preserve the painstaking work, the heroism, and the lessons learned, ensuring that the truth, meticulously documented, is never lost. From the towers of New York to the Pentagon and the fields of Shanksville, the Bureau's efforts created a permanent archive of both human tragedy and investigative diligence. Every memo, photograph, and report reminds us that even in the darkest hours, there are people committed to uncovering the facts and protecting the nation. Next time on Stories from the Vault, we turn our attention to Pulse Nightclub in Orlando, Florida, where the FBI's investigation reveals not just the facts of the attack, but the human stories and the search for justice that followed one of the most devastating tragedies in modern American history. Until next time, remember, justice isn't always blind, and the truth is rarely redacted forever. This has been Stories from the Vault. I'm Kyle Fields. Take care.